Good afternoon, Mets fans, and welcome to a late afternoon edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and I decided not to record a video this morning. Now that the game is over today, I feel stupid about that because I was sort of thinking, hey, this might be a 3 out of 4 win series. And, we got DeGrom on the mound this afternoon. I'm not even going to do a video this morning. I'm just going to do it this afternoon. Well, I forgot that the Mets were playing the Giants and that Bumgarner was on the mound. And as evidenced by Gary, Keith, and Ron today on the broadcast, Bumgarner has owned the Mets at Citi Field. So that means a loss. A series split 2 apiece with the Giants. But that aside, I want to talk about last night's win and a little bit more about today's loss on today's video. Noah Syndergaard pitched for the Mets last night and pitched pretty well. 6 innings of pretty good ball. Gave up 2 runs, I believe, if I remember correctly. I mean, that was like 12 hours ago. I can't remember any of that. But what I do remember most about last night's game was the continued emergence of Jeff McNeil as a legitimate bat for the Mets. Last night, he continued a stretch of consecutive at-bats with a hit. That streak ended, however, in his 3rd at-bat of the night, ended at 8. So Jeff McNeil, the rookie, the 26-year-old, has-been guy who's never going to make it in the big leagues, comes up and does nothing but rake, has 8 consecutive at-bats where he gets himself on base via a hit. And we aren't talking about like little dinky hits. We're talking about legit hard-hit balls driven to all fields. And that's the thing that I'm liking to see about Jeff McNeil. He's not a pull hitter. He can slap the ball all over the field. Maybe slap is the wrong word, but he can use the whole field. That's probably what I want to try to say. And I talked a lot about McNeil yesterday, and here I am again doing it today. But man, I'm super excited to see Jeff McNeil and him continue to emerge here as a legitimate option for the Mets going forward. Another legitimate option for the Mets going forward was Daniel, don't call me Pedro Zamora, who I had to look up, actually. I looked him up last night because I'm like, where the hell did they get this kid from? And the Mets got Daniel Zamora in a trade with the Pirates this past offseason when the Mets sent Josh Smoker to Pittsburgh. And in return, they got Daniel Zamora. Interesting trade all around. We thought it sort of, generally at the time, that the Mets were a little odd to be trading Smoker. And looking back at the deal and looking at the return in Zamora, I feel sort of like the Pirates shouldn't have traded him. He seems like a young guy. Seems like a young guy who certainly looks like he has a nice upside, a nice future, and might blossom into a really good, legitimate left-handed pitcher. But a left-handed relief pitcher, that is. But hey, the Pirates traded him for Smoker. The Mets have him. And he closed out, didn't close out the game, but he pitched in the 9th inning last night and has a really nice sweeping curveball. And I guess it's more of a slider than a curveball, but still, it's a really nice, effective weapon that he can use against lefties. And for as ineffective as Jerry Blevins had been for most of the season, Blevins is starting to pick up some steam now. And I think he's been unscored upon in his last 12 innings of work or something like that, or his last 12 appearances. That's great for Blevins. And with the August 31st non-waiver trade deadline, waiver trade deadline approaching, there's a very legit chance that the Mets might deal Blevins and get something in return for him. Not sure what. But there is a possibility they might get something back for Blevins and lean a little bit more on young Mr. Zamora as the season progresses. And going into next year, maybe Daniel Zamora is a fit for the bullpen in 2019. He certainly looks to be. The second straight year that the Mets have had a shitty September to look forward to. Last year we got to see a few of the bullpen arms that were acquired in trades of the basically the whole team last year. This year we're seeing some different names, and for me that's one of the nice things about nice things is wrong. Silver lining of the dark cloud that has been the 2018 season, and it's that we're getting to see the Tyler Bachelors and the Drew Smiths. It's nice to see that these young arms, lively young arms, are going to be inexpensive options for the Mets to have at their disposal in 2019. I've said this ad nauseum this year. Buying the bullpen doesn't work. You have to build it from within, and you have to have like 16 options that you can rest on this throughout the season, because guys are going to get hurt, guys are going to come up and down. It is the reality of pitching in Major League Baseball in 2018. And rather than spending a fortune on a handful of guys, Mets did it with one guy, Anthony Swarzak, and how's that been working out? Yuck. The Mets can fill some of those gaps next year, perhaps with a few of the names that I just mentioned, the Bachelors, the Smiths, and the Zamoras, and so on. So, just to touch a little bit on today's game, what can you say about Madison Bumgarner? I mean, honestly, he's a stud pitcher who, by himself, can, and for the Giants has put a team on his back and carried them across a finish line. And he did it today for the Giants. He owned the Mets. I didn't realize how well his numbers stacked up at Citi Field. But if you included the postseason, I think Gary said it was 33 consecutive scoreless innings for Bumgarner at Citi Field. That's nuts. And of course, because that's the way it goes, the Mets go from the frying pan into the fire. So today they had Bumgarner, who's great at Citi Field. And tomorrow, the Nats, they have the Nats come into town, and the Mets have to face Gio Gonzalez, who pitches so well at Citi Field, he might as well live there. A commercial where Mr. Met walks out of the front gate at Citi Field to get the newspaper. Behind Mr. Met is actually Gio Gonzalez. Mr. Met's actually Gio Gonzalez's butler in that commercial that we see on SNY all the time. Anyway, interesting about Gio Gonzalez, he is a free agent this year, and I would not mind seeing the Mets take a flyer on Gio Gonzalez. Sign Gio Gonzalez to a one-year deal if that's possible. I don't know if it is or isn't possible, but why not give it a shot? This guy has pitched so well at Citi Field. Bring him in and see what he can do. There's no reason not to do that. I would rather see the Mets make an effort to improve the rotation by eliminating Jason Vargas's spot and bringing in a guy like Gio rather, than going out and trying to buy 12 bullpen arms. I'd much rather see them invest in one quality starting pitcher. Of course, the argument against bringing in Gio Gonzalez is that he always pitches well at Citi Field against the Mets, and if the Mets sign him, he obviously will not be pitching against them. So, in any event, that was a little bit of an aside. Unfortunate start today for DeGrom. He ends up pitching 6 innings. It was really obvious early on that he did not have his best stuff, but like he always does, he made chicken salad out of chicken shit and turned in a quality start, struck out 10 batters in the process, did walk a season-high 4 batters, which sort of leads to what I said before. He just didn't have his stuff, didn't have his best command today, and it cost him with a loss. So, can't win them all. And he had won his previous 3 starts. The Mets put up some runs for him previously, but hit that brick wall today known as Madison Bumgarner. So tomorrow, the Mets, as I said, welcome in the Washington Nationals, the Daniel Murphy-less and Matt Adams-less Washington Nationals. And of course, the Nationals are playing really well now, coming into Citi Field. But it'll be interesting to see if the Mets can shut Bryce Harper down. Harper's on fire of late, so it'll be cool to see Harper come in and the Nats. And I would love for the Mets to be able to take 2 out of 3, if for no other reason than it would further bury the Nationals in the National League East. And eliminate them further from postseason contention. That would make my heart full. So I will not be back tomorrow to talk about anything because I'm doing this now. There won't be anything to talk about tomorrow morning. So I will probably be back on Monday, next week, Monday, and I'll recap the weekend set with the Nats and talk about the upcoming series with the now Daniel Murphy full Chicago Cubs. I don't know. The Murphy-less Nats, the Murphy-full Cubs. Whatever. Until that time, whenever it may be, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know. As always, I do thank you for watching, and let's go Mets.